Hey, ministry entrepreneurs. Great to have you here for day 3 of our wisdom series. It's been so good diving into the book of Proverbs and intentionally diving in, trying to mine, what God would have to say to us as far as how we invest, why we invest, and making sure that who we are as a people are in alignment with what the integrity aspect of who he is and character wise, and then just leaning on wisdom. So we are excited to dive into chapter 3 with you, which we're going to start right now.
Let's go.
So this chapter, again, we're reading from the New Living Translation from chapter 3. And it is one that's very popular. At least there are a few verses in here that are, pretty recognizable. I'm going to skip over those and leave those to you, okay? But I'm just going to go straight to verse 7. And it says, "Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil." And when you're used to having answers, when you're used to being the one that people go to for solutions and seeking things out, it can be easy to think that your answers are good enough, that you don't have to go above you to get any more answers. And we don't like to look at it that way as Christians, because knowledge wise, God is the ultimate authority. We want our businesses and things and who we are to line up with God, and what we pursue to line up with God. Sometimes we can be tempted to be impressed with our own wisdom, with our own strategies, with our own ideas, and forget to do what verse 5 and 6 say.
Trust the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. Then 7 says, don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil.
Yeah.
Those scriptures I actually grew up with in school. And the other one was in verse 2. I'll start with verse 2. If you do this, you will live many years, and your life will be satisfied. And in 3, it says, never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as reminders. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people. And I like this version because I think it's King James, where it's like, write them on the tablets of your heart.
That's it, yeah.
And it does, but this kind of brings more of a practical understanding of what it's actually talking about in this verse, about loyalty and kindness, and understanding that those two elements are so important to what first off, when you're talking about your relationship with God, but your relationship to people. Loyalty and kindness go way beyond, in business, when you have a loyal customer, or you're loyal to your base, and you exude kindness in the midst of all you do in the midst of business. These are important keys and understandings. Maybe jumping points.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
In verse 9, it says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's understanding that put God first in with the money you make, putting God first in the decisions you make.
That's good.
When always have God in the presence of when you're loving people, and understanding that it produces so much more when he's a part of everything. And I think that's a key, because we tend to cut him out because we're like, well, I don't think he's necessary in this aspect of my life, or I don't think he's necessary to consult him in what I want to do financially, or this expansion that I want to do, or this next part of business. But he constantly is a person that can help
Yeah, that's really good. And something else that stuck out to me, I think we're starting to get the value of wisdom. You know what, how much, how valuable wisdom is. Like verse 15, it says, "Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her." And this verse 13, "Joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding." And here we're in this section of things, like we're ministry entrepreneurs, right? So we, as our merch says, we've been called to cover and called to create. And in both of them, in both aspects, in looking at the house of God and in looking at what he's called us to put our own hands to, is what he's placed on the inside of each one of us. It's like that these principles are relevant to both. And I know we've spent a lot of time in the ministry aspect, and the joyful part of ministry wasn't always there. And even on the business side, there have been parts where the joyful part of it isn't there, because it's not about like the doing. We can be called to cover, which all of us are, and called to create, and those just be what we're supposed to do without living in the wisdom of what we're supposed to do. So even though we've been called to cover, and that's noble and that's fantastic, if we do it without wisdom, we won't have joy. And if we try to build a business and we try to do it without wisdom, we won't have joy. So it doesn't matter what we do, it's the intentional pursuit of wisdom that factors into how we feel about what we do, or what resources we have access to, no matter what we're doing. So just like in verse 18, "Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly." Verse 22 or 21 and 22, "My child, don't lose sight of common sense and discernment. Hang on to them, for they will refresh your soul. They are like jewels on a necklace. They keep you safe on your way, and your feet will not stumble." So there are things with wisdom that we need as people, whether we're on the ministry side in covering and making sure that the house of God is taken care of, or we're on the entrepreneur side and building what God has placed on the inside of us. We need wisdom. And not only do we need it for strategy and for insight, but we also need it so that we are shored up, like we are policed up on the inside, and we get a refreshing of our souls when we pursue wisdom, and we have access to common sense and discernment when we pursue wisdom. So it makes it so relevant and so necessary for us to do this whole aspect. In verse 26, "For the Lord is your security. He will keep your foot from being caught in a trap." This next verse is actually one of my absolute favorites. "Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. If you can help your neighbor now, don't say come back tomorrow and then I'll help you. Don't plot harm against your neighbor, for those who live nearby trust you." And we can read, go through the whole chapter because it's really good. But just this intentionality, and that's what you're going to hear us use, all throughout our journey together for as long as you stick with us. But being intentional, we have all these resources available to us in what God has called us to, whether it's for his house or for what he's called us to build outside. And wisdom is a key factor in that, but it's not just going to fall. There are things that we have to do to engage wisdom, and trusting in the Lord is a key first step. So, is there anything else you have? Not for today.
That was a dap-worthy shore up.
Hiya.
Just kidding, but no.
That's so good. Yeah, so we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you've gathered, because we did not even scratch the surface. There's so much, and there's so much on the inside of you that the world needs. So let us hear it. I mean, we can't promise the world is going to be in the squad. People who have access to the world are going to be in the squad. So share with us what you learned, and we look forward to hearing what what God showed you and what you pulled out nugget-wise from Proverbs chapter 3. See you tomorrow.